Hello, this is The Wrong Hero, and as you may know by now, we are continuing our series, number 19 in a series, as a matter of fact, and this one is called Opinion Only. Now I have some happy news for you, some happy news. We are coming to the end of this series, you'll be happy to know, and we may get to 24 of them, in which case that would take us to the end of October, or we may do a couple more. But be that as it may, ding dong, this series has just about had its day in the sun. And I'm not saying this because I'm happy that it's over. Far from it. Far be it from me to say anything of the kind. I'm saying it because I've just about exhausted anything and everything I had to say about politics for the nonce. So, with a little bit of luck, I'll be able to blitz through all of these items, seriatim as it will, and as a special treat, at the end of the evening, we will be discussing some grammar questions. Oh, but wait, first, I'm sorry, excuse me please. I have to look for my notebook. You know, it's like 11:30 at night, and I thought maybe it would be nice if I actually did some stuff that was actually funny instead of talking about politics all the time. So I'm going to run through my act, which I'll be doing at AS220. I, the Wrong Hero, promise you an escape from America's homogenizing corporate culture. Now this is some good stuff. I've been stockpiling it since June, basically. So the question I have to ask is, what do you think? What a world, huh? What a world, what a country, what a great land this is, what a language the English language is. There's so many little rules that you can't possibly keep track of, even if you've had 70 years to do so. Like, for example, does the phrase anal compulsive take a hyphen? Well, does it? Does it? I want to know. I want to know. I can't function. Do you understand me? I'm really not able to cope with this right now because it's... What does take a hyphen? Does manic depressive take a hyphen? Sometimes I think it does, other times I don't care. Does punk rock take a hyphen? What do you, fuck you! So, anyway, that is a question. Does anal compulsive take a hyphen? Oh, and another thing. Here's a little aphorism for you. See, I'm going to eat up about half an hour of time with this sort of comedy stuff, right? Because I know most of you are going to go to bed. Actually, you're probably all watching Letterman right now, but most of you will be in bed by midnight. And so for the hour and a half following midnight, I can just throw anything on here I really want to. All right, here's an aphorism. The more illusory the enemy, the more ruthlessly he must be hunted down. Now that's just only my opinion, okay? See, my problem is I can't do nothing right. Like David Bowie selling stock in himself. You hear about this? Well, this was a few months ago. He's on the internet selling stock in his future works. Well, that's not exactly a stock I would count on to support me in my old age, but you never know. He's got a big fat contract from a record company. So he's one of those marginal guys, like, you know, you're always going to be interested in what the Rolling Stones do, even if it's crap. because you have such a strong body of work against which to balance it. But David Bowie, I mean, he's kind of on and off, you know. I mean, he's had some dry patches, to say the least, like 15 years in duration. I mean, I don't think the Rolling Stones had a dry patch of that duration. I would say that, well, possibly from 1980 to 1986, perhaps their work was not of the highest caliber. Who knows? Might even stretch that out to 1989. Okay, that's like 9-year hiatus deal. In the Who, you know, well, they broke up, but they weren't really doing much in the way of really outstanding work for the last 5 or 6 years that they were together. I mean, you know, on and off, and Peter Townsend had some good stuff, and you get the impression he was saving it for like his solo albums and not really pushing out the stuff for the band the way he should. Like that album he did, Rough Mix, with that other guy who recently died, Peter Townsend, and I think he was in the Small Faces. Well, anyway, not Rod Stewart. Anyway, yeah, well, Rough Mix, that was a pretty good record, and Empty Glass, you know, that was a great record. But David Bowie, I mean, what did he do after Let's Dance and that Iggy Pop song China Girl that he did a cover version of to save his hash from having an album with only one decent song on it? Nothing really. I mean, you know, Ashes to Ashes, Junk to Junkie. I know Major Tom's a junkie. I mean, he's just like you know, reruns and doing the same crap over and over again. And I saw him on Letterman or something like that. Boy, was he bad. I mean, the song was lousy. See, that's the big thing. When the song's lousy, it doesn't really matter who's performing it. Now, what's going on with this? One of my books has been set on the ground here. Okay, so David's selling stock. Well, I'm going to sell stock in myself. 1 penny per share. You're going to buy 100 shares for $1 lousy, or do you want trouble? That's what I want to know. Well, anyway, I was working on a list of things not to say when you're stopped by a traffic officer. You see, I'm always stopped by traffic officers, and when the little flashlight goes off in the rearview mirror, I go, "Goody, goody gumdrops! It's God's flashlight." And you know, that's one thing not to say to a policeman. Goody, goody gumdrops. That looks like God's flashlight. Now, I'm going to add that because I sort of improvised it, you know. And that's what I hope to get out of this. Because, you know, I got a show coming out, first show in 3 months, as a matter of fact, although I shouldn't admit it. And, you know, I want to come back with a bang. I don't want to just get up there and mumble my way through the usual desultory or desultory or whatever you want to say, you know, crapola. Okay, here's some things you don't say to a traffic officer. I'm cuckoo for cocaine puffs. That's one thing you don't say to a traffic officer. I'll bet I can get that gun out of your holster before you finish counting to 3. That's another thing you don't say to a traffic officer. You call that pop gun a weapon? Yet another thing you don't say to a traffic officer. And, of course, all right, get back, all of you. Right. What else do you not say to a traffic officer? Well, I have a whole list of them right here. Right here, a Rooney. See, this is such great stuff. I can't help it. I can't help it. You know, okay. You know, the thing is, the cop, he always says, you know, he always says, "Why were you speeding?" Or, you know, "Do you know what you did?" "No, let's play Wheel of Fortune. Can I buy a vowel?" You know, it's like, let's play charades, you know, like that. See, I'm writing this material as I'm coming up with it. Isn't this sad? Okay, so he says, why were you speeding? And you say, because for a minute there, I thought I was in a planet where apes evolved from men. Or you say, are you talking to me? I think you're talking to me because there ain't nobody else in this room. Or, you don't know it yet, but you're dead. Or, I'm Aquaman, king of Atlantis, and if I don't get to some water soon, I'll die. Do you want that responsibility on your hands? Or are you going to cut me loose? Or you could say, do not bring your evil here. Or, I have leprosy and the drugstore was having a sale on chamugra oil. Or you could say, you call that speeding? You should have seen how fast I was going before I ran over that little girl. Or you could say, you are one weird mama jama. Or you could say, how's about a little fire, scarecrow? Or you could say, I am Iron Man. Down, down. Or you could say, I am the angel of death. Please be my friend. Or you could say, I've never driven a real car before, but fortunately, I remember some tricks from my slot car racing days, I should say. Or you could say, I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last. Or you could say, I regret nothing. Or if he asks you why you're speeding, you could say, I am Batman. Or you could say, I'm going to give you such a pinch. Or you could say, I'm made of liquid metal. Or you could say, it's fun. Or you could say, why was I speeding? Because it's my way or the highway. Or you could say, listen, Luke, you don't want to mess with the man who has no eyes. Or you could say, pull my finger. Or you could say, meow. Or you could say, I'm just getting warmed up. Or you could say, why was I speeding? Pigs make me nervous. Or you could say, go home, Dad, you're drunk. Or you could say, I think I ate a bad donut. I'm sorry. No, you could say that, but you could also say, yeah, you could say, I think I ate a bad donut. Ever have that problem? I'll bet you have. Judging from your waistline, do you have an air freshener in your car that smells like a pig? Yeah, that's a good one. Kind of infantile, but a good one. See, the thing is, that smells like pork. Now, my favorite is, well, I think I ate a bad mushroom. That's a pretty good one. Especially if you say it like, I think I ate a bad mushroom. Moo. Moo. Or you could say, bad cop, no donuts. Now, you know, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? See, I don't have anything against the cops. You could say, goody goody gumdrops, that siren looks like God's flashlight. So, anyhow, yeah, we've run through the list. And I still don't know which ones I'm going to use on Saturday, which is only a scant 3 days away. Maybe I should, like, not use any of them and then use them for the next month or something? I don't know. I'm going to put that decision off. You see, I procrastinate all the time, especially when it comes to putting things off until tomorrow. It's just the kind of guy I am. Now, my favorite thing to say when I'm in court is, I haven't committed a crime. What I did was fail to comply with the law. Or, I didn't accept the bribe. I was chosen to receive it. Or, what do you mean? I paid my taxes. You know what this is all about? The IRS is mad because I dated the check 1897, okay? That's all it is. Just a simple misunderstanding. Well, anyway, now this is the really good stuff. I've been like polishing my act, and it's not in any order or anything, but I think you can hold out for another 15 minutes or so. I know you are getting sleepy. But in court, I'm in court. It's like, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And I'll tell you right here and now, I can't do nothing right. Because when I'm in court and I hear that, do you swear to tell the whole truth, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Well, I heard you the first time, fucker. It's like, you can't handle the truth. In the Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. Judge Nazi. Viva la revolution! I just do what the gun tells me to do. As a free man, I am not subject to your petty laws, for truly these are the end times. By the way, I wonder if you guys ever get a boner under that robe, or are you too old to get it up? Oh, and by the way, where I come from, a fat pig like you could never be a judge. Okay? Just to set the record straight. We got such incredibly good stuff here. I should just blow off this entire political jazz and just do this great stuff I got here. I got pages and pages and pages of it. I've already gone through one page, but I've got about, 10 more or something. Okay. It takes a big man to cry. Yet another one of the wrong hero's aphorisms. It takes a big man to cry, but it takes an even bigger man to scream like a little girl. My mom said a dog bite is worse than a human bite. I said, okay. Okay, I believe you, Mom. You can stop biting me now. See, now, it's good that I went over this one, because, now I know how to do it on stage, right? It's like, just the way I did it. Like, my mom said, mothers are always telling you this stuff. You got to set it up, You got to set up the punchline. It's like, I can't do nothing right. And I had plenty of instruction when I was growing up. It's not like I was some sort of orphan or something. No. My mom would always try to tell me stuff. My parents were always trying to tell me stuff. Like my mom, she'd always don't bite your little sister. My mom said, and she'd say, a dog bite is worse than a human bite. And I'd say, okay, Mom. Okay, I believe you, Mom. You can stop biting me now. See, I'm learning something here. Gotta act it out. Don't bite your little sister! Don't you know a dog bite is worse than a human bite? And I said, okay, Mom, I believe you, Mom. You can stop biting me now. Now here's a nice little riddle for you. How many wrong heroes does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. Because it's not my fucking job. Okay? How many drunks does it take to screw in a light bulb? One. He holds the bulb and the room starts spinning. How many country and western singers does it take to screw in a light bulb? Just like working on this sort of motif. 4. One to complain about how his truck broke down, one to complain about his hound dog died, one to complain about his wife left him for the mailman, and one to call a few of his buddies and get out a case of beer and sit around and talk about how hard it's going to be to do it. So, 1, 2, truck, dog, wife, call, 4 buddies, 6, case of beer, talk about it. Okay, that's some new material here. All right, here's a riddle for you. Why do clowns have big feet? Or I should say, why do clowns have such big feet? I think that's so they can bob right back up after I punch them. Now here's something. I went to a museum where all the paintings were done by my 3-year-old daughter. And wouldn't you know it, some know-it-all loudmouth was standing there going, an artist could have done that. I gotta tell you something about Christmas. Christmas comes but once a year. Then again, so do most holidays. Oh, and by the way, I was born on a holiday. Can you guess which one? Christmas? No. My mother had me on Labor Day. It took her 24 hours. Okay. You know, I'm my own worst enemy. Because, of course, I'm the wrong hero. I kidnapped myself. Then I held myself for ransom. I wrote myself a letter. It said, meet me under the bridge by the old warehouse at midnight with the money, or you'll never see yourself again. Then I didn't show up. Because I'm my own worst enemy. Can't do nothing right. I went to Disneyland. They had this animatronic robot of Lincoln in the Hall of Presidents. I stole it and took it out to my truck. I kidnapped it and I took it out to my truck and I used its head to check for tread wear on my tires. Because I didn't have a penny. I don't know if I can use that one or not. You see, I got too much material. So, you know, obviously you should get rid of the bad stuff, but you don't know what people are going to laugh at, so you actually try it. I looked under the Christmas tree for my present one Christmas, and when you know it, it was another Christmas tree, only smaller. The joke was on me, though, because it wasn't Christmas. Oops. The sign at the supermarket said 12 items or less, so I had 15. So I ate the can of pepper, the sandpaper, and the box of matches. And my insides felt like they were burning up. So I said to the cashier, is it hot in here or is it just me? Patting my stomach. You know, at work we had 2 Xerox machines and I wanted one for myself. So I Xeroxed the Xerox machine and I made a 3rd Xerox machine for my desk. But wouldn't you know it, the resolution wasn't quite as sharp as that made from the originals. When I die, I want to die in my sleep like old Grandpa, not screaming like the passengers in his car. I saw this bumper sticker. It said, save the whales, win valuable prizes. Like, what would you win? Okay. I went to a restaurant and the sign in the bathroom read, employees must wash hands. I waited around all day. None of them showed up. I'm going bald. That's why I wear this funny hat. So I put Rogaine on my tires because they were bald. And they grew their tread back for a while, but when I stopped using it, they went bald again. You know, at my wedding, just as a side note, a local reference here. At my wedding, I think I would like to have Barrett's Whitfield and the Savages do their rendition of Mama, get the hammer, there's a fly on the baby's head. Have you heard this one? Well, you will. My truck was towed by the Providence police, and I said, and I'd like to ask you all, can I have $48 to get it back? Okay, I blew that one. That's an audience participation number. Oh, and here's another excuse that you don't give to the traffic cop. Don't worry about me. I'm a nonviolent hypocrite. You can put that gun away. You believe me, don't you? Or do you want some trouble? You know, when I was a kid growing up, we got all the cheap candy. And now this is in 2 parts, right? When we were growing up, we didn't have M&Ms. We had M's. They didn't melt in your mouth. They didn't melt in your hand. They just sat there in your stomach. They didn't melt. They were just fucking M's. I'm gonna I'm gonna go to the bathroom now. My girlfriend doesn't like to eat out with me. I go to a restaurant, I look at the menu and I say, okay. Now I downloaded a list of jokes. Now I can't use anybody else's material, obviously, but I saw one that was so good that I've got to tell you about it. Your mother is so ugly, they push... I can't help it, this is just so goddamn funny. Your mama is so ugly, they push her face into dough to make gorilla cookies. Oh, to make gorilla cookies. Where do I get these cookies? I'd love to see them. They would be very sanitary, I guess. By the way, do bears give human hugs? Anyway, this humor business is hard, and I'm not kidding. I've never been more serious about a joke. This is no joke. I'm kidding. Actually, I'm serious. It was a joke. You wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you? No, you'd hit it with a baseball bat. Or a 2x4. You know, Nathan Hale said, I regret that I have but one life to give for my country. Well, you know what his cat said? Said, I regret that I have but 9 lives to give for my country. This is a test. This is only a test. Had this been an actual emergency, we would have left town without notifying you, and you'd be as dead as a mackerel. Yep, this is a test. They used to do that all the time, like in the 1960s. This is only a test. Honk if you like peace and quiet. That's my motto. Honk if you're a Canadian goose. By the way, here's another one of those lame-o light bulb jokes. How many acid heads does it take to screw in a light bulb? Blueberry! Okay, I can tell that one went over big. There's no such thing as a second chance. I said, there's no such thing as a second chance. Oops. Okay, I say, the meek shall inherit the earth, or else. Now repeat after me. I will not conform. Be different, or else. Abolish racism. Let the class warfare begin. Would you refuse to answer a hypothetical question if yes means no and no means yes? Will your answer to this question be no? Well? Oh, and here's my theory. Human beings were invented by coffee bushes. Okay? Not God, not an evil scientist named Jacob, not through evolution, although indirectly perhaps yes, but by coffee bushes. Now here's a question. Since Christ died for our sins, does he get mad when we don't commit any? And what did Sid Vicious die for? And now, this word for Pavlov's conditioned response coffee. That coffee smells really good. Sure does wake you up in the morning. That's because it's conditioned response coffee. Conditioned response coffee? Conditioned response coffee. Look for the picture of the salivating dog on every jar. Well, anyway, in spite of the fact that these jokes kind of stink, or at least some of them do, I like to keep a positive attitude. I think I can. That's my motto. I think I can. I think I can. Fail. Now, one time, somebody asked me, what time is it? And I said, I don't know. I'm not from around here. Now, here's my $1 million guarantee. You give me $1 million, and I'll give you a guarantee. How do you like that? Now remember, my friends, no bachelor ever said, I need more time to myself. Okay, actually, I thought I was going to have to break here, but I just got a few more here, and then we'll get to the political stuff. Airlines prohibit overlarge luggage, so I took a giant Mobius strip on the flight, and since it existed only in 2 dimensions, they had to let me take it on. But they were kind of leery about the bowling ball made out of antimatter, and they weren't too keen about the black hole I wanted to bring with me. Got to work on that one. Got to think of. They didn't like the black hole either. They didn't like the carry-on luggage made out of a black hole. Okay, yeah, they didn't like, and they didn't like. They didn't like the. Carry on with a black hole in it. All the power went out in Cambridge for about 4 hours. Do you remember this? It was about, well, from when I'm speaking, it's probably about 2 months ago. Just after I finished eating everything in the refrigerator, wouldn't you know it, the power came back on. Don't you hate it when that happens? One time I was out on the street for a month. This is a true story. I was basically homeless. And, well, I caught up on all my magazines. I didn't have a job or anything. I read them all. Better Homes and Benches, Better Homes and Shanties, Better Homes and Subways, Better Homes and Tunnels, Better Homes and Shelters. And, of course, I read the boring magazines. I didn't have much to do. Snooze Week, U.S. Snooze, Nap Time. Let's see. Evander Holyfield. He's going to write his autobiography. It's called This Was the Ear That Was. Tyson is going to a psychiatrist, and I hope he keeps his ear to the ground. Wasn't that a great fight? You could call it that championship season. Now here's a good joke for you. Elvis weighed 70 pounds on the moon because of its lesser gravity, and he weighed 120 pounds on Mars because of its lesser gravity, and he weighed like 250 pounds on Earth. Well, on the sun, he'd weigh 15 tons. That's a real hunk of burning love now, isn't it? I've got not false memory syndrome. I've got false cohort memory syndrome. In 1975, I was a high school hippie. In 1985, I was a college punk. In 1995, I was a grad school acid yuppie. So, now there's a demographic category for you. Grad school acid yuppie. I got a problem with premature ejaculation. On and off. Anyway, what else do we got here? Oh yeah, October 11th is coming up. Of course, it commemorates October 11th, 1492, which was, of course, the last good day for the Indians. Let's see, this is like mostly audience participation stuff, So I can't do it. I had a cousin, his name was Lawrence. He was a lawyer, strangely enough. He was as crooked as a dog's hind leg. The only 2 books in his library were by Lee Iacocca and Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Iacocca. Well, I eat simple carbohydrates because I was too stupid for complex carbohydrates. I used to eat EDC baby food, Evil Destructive Corporation organic baby food. And when I was older, I used to go to the goods store. They used to sell ground glass that put in orphan's oatmeal. Before I was the wrong hero, I was known as Ridiculous Man, by the way. And I worked at this place called Mofo's Chicken. And their motto was, It's mother plucking good. Now, Jimmy Buffett was in town just about a month ago. What are the lowest forms of life? People who go to Disneyland, fans of the rock group Oasis, the folks who used to follow the Grateful Dead around, and even lower than them are the people who now follow Fish around. Lower than that are the people who own a copy of Muskrat Love by the Captain and Tennille. But the lowest form of life are the parrot heads, the Jimmy Buffett aficionados. You can't get much lower than that, in my book, in my opinion. And besides, this is opinion only. Now, nothing is as good as it used to be, including this statement. Oh, that's just so funny. I know a very talented pianist. His name is Steve Dubois. And I want to say to him, Steve, I'd give my right hand to be able to play the piano by you. But that would kind of defeat the purpose. And besides, what would you do with my right hand? Now, if you're like 40 years old and you want to go out with this 20-year-old and she doesn't want to go out with you because she thinks you're too old and you're fat and you don't have any money, well, you just say to her, we're going to this really groovy party and we're going to take groovy death candy and get so fucked up because we're all going to end up in the hospital. But you can't come because you're not hip with the in crowd. And believe me, she'll be begging you to go to this party. And here's something nice to say to your folks. Dad, you cough like a dog. That's one way. That's the last time I saw my dad. Keep telling yourself, it's only a stupid television show. It's only the stupidest television show I've ever seen. Now here's something I don't understand. They say, such and such a movie starts everywhere, Friday. According to the laws of physics, that's impossible. Okay? Just want you to know that. Anyway, in the old days, the songs were nice, like, you ask me how I knew, ba 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 ba, smoke gets in your eyes, And in the 50s, two silhouettes on the shade, silhouette, silhouette, silhouette. In the 60s, everything changed, like, she's sucking on my ding-dong, just like Sister Ray said, whip it on me, Jim, whip it on me, Jim. Everything changed in the 60s. And of course, let's not talk about the 70s and 80s. Now we might be getting back to some sort of normality with, the lounge music and stuff. Like 1961's Rejects are 1997's Hot Ticket. Of course, everybody's going to get back into big band jazz, and when that tires, and it'll be Dixieland, and then it'll be sentimental ballads from the 1890s. So, how far back can you go? Oh yeah, Stephen Foster. Doo-dah, doo-dah. It's sort of like the devolution of people's taste. Well, anyway, I'd like to conclude this segment of the program by saying that a consensus mentality is far more offensive to me than my wrong-headed beefs are, presumably, to you. And I conclude by saying, what a world, what a life, what a language. But of course, that's opinion only. Well, I'm going to have to tape this onto another tape and go over it at some point when I have the leisure time, which will be never. Anyway, this has been The Wrong Hero, and I'm going to come back at you with some more stuff, but not right away. I'll start last. We're going to actually talk about some political stuff after this 40 minutes of joking hiatus. Anyway. Will the Democrats be led by Gephardt to retake Congress in 1998? Can we look forward to Dan Quayle running for president in the year 2000? Well, chits are what vice presidents collect and distribute, according to Gloria Borger in U.S. News and World Report. He's very good at fundraising, says Arizona Senator John McCain, another presidential aspirant. A pause. But it remains to be seen what his message is. You get the feeling he's running because he's former Vice President Dan Quayle, says one aide. Really? Ask Dole how well that strategy works. I don't underestimate the media's propensity to go back and rehash this nonsense, says Dan Quayle. You have to be the moral conservative and forget the resume thing, says one frustrated aide. So, anyway, so much for Dan Quayle and president. What does he do when he goes into a restaurant? I'll have the vice president's lunch, he says. Well, this is going to be pretty skimpy on political data because the last 40 minutes of this show I hope to be a lesson in grammar. Now, you may think, well, what do we need that for? We all speak English. Pretty good, too. Well, let's see. I got a message on the answering machine.
And dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording.
Now I gotta listen to this whole thing again.
And dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording.
Oh, what do you think of that? This number cannot be completed as dialed. Sounds pretty swank to me. Well, sorry to put you through this, but
and dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording.
we're sorry. This
We're
number,
sorry.
your number
cannot be completed as dialed.
cannot be completed as dialed.
Please check the number and
Please
dial
check
again.
the number and dial
Or
again.
call your operator to
Or
help
call
you.
your operator.
This is a recording.
Sure, and begorra, and I will.
We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or call your operator to help you. This is a recording.
Or call your operator. This call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number. I mean, not to be nasty in any sort of obvious ethnic way, but sure and begorra. And sure, isn't it that your number cannot be completed as dialed? Oh, would you be so kind as to call again? You know, I shouldn't let my personal life intrude on my comedic. This could have been the housing people calling me back. Whoops, I forgot. That was the last number I dialed. The Providian Financial. 874. Well, we'll see. Maybe this is for me. Well, if you haven't tuned out by now, welcome back. If you have tuned out by now, who the hell am I talking to? Hey, maybe Dole's wife, Liddy Dole, will run for president in the year 2000. That's the scuttlebutt. About 6 months after the president is inaugurated, genuine political news is pretty thin on the ground. Now this is all stuff from June of 1997. I'm speaking to you now from the vantage point of early September. Or post-Princess Diana. Yes, truly these are the end times. Anyway, villains are much more interesting, particularly now in this politically correct time. I'm dying to be bad, says Christopher Plummer. But let's get back to this. Vernon Jordan, deal maker for big money interests, duh. The epitome of the Washington power broker, untouchables whose informal contacts and clout give them far more power and access than any other lobbyist. The New Republic has emerged under editor Michael Kelly as the most anti-Clinton publication in town. Well, as Dante Chinny says, sarcastic self-awareness will only take us so far. Well, what are the odds on the GOP 2000 race? Kemp 6-1, Quayle 15-1, Liddy Dole 12-1, George Bush Jr. 6-1, Forbes 12-1, Lamar 20-1, Buchanan 100-1, Fred Thompson 15-1, and Nichols, Branstad, McCain, Whitman, Kasich, Keating, Ashcroft, Pataki, Engler, and Bennett 40-1. Graham and Lott 30-1. Newt and Army 100-1. Colin Powell 9-1. Now them's the odds. But Coleman probably won't run. He didn't run when he had the chance. Why should he run now? Secrets of success: staying focused on a multiplicity of strategic hypotheses before choosing the best strategy, and teaming up with brilliant partners and colleagues, says Paul Mandabach. When you set yourself up as sparkling clean, dirt looks like mud, says Craig Varoga. According to a new poll, 64% of Mexicans have an unfavorable opinion of the United States. Of course, the other 36% are in the United States, says Jay Leno. The power of accurate observation is commonly called cynicism by those who have not got it, said George Bernard Shaw. Government is not reason. It is not eloquence. It is force, said George Washington. And you know, that is just so incredibly on the beam. Yes, indeed. And I'm going to write it down. You don't care. But it's so true. Government is force. He that would govern others should first be the master of himself, said Philip Massinger. And with a name like Philip Massinger, one wonders just how much of a master of himself he really was. A liberal is a man with both feet planted firmly in the air, said Adlai Stevenson, whereas Emerson counters with, conservatism goes for comfort, reform for truth. Every reform movement has a lunatic fringe, says Teddy Roosevelt. A just cause is not ruined by a few mistakes, says Dostoevsky. The campaign ends Tuesday, but it'll take 2 generations to sweep up the dirt, said Will Rogers of a particularly brutal campaign, presumably in the 1920s. An efficient bureaucracy is the greatest threat to liberty, says Gene McCarthy. A bureaucrat is a Democrat who holds some office a Republican once, said Vice President under Truman Alban Barkley. Never give advice in a crowd, goes the old Arab proverb, and I think I've broken that. I've probably denied that saying. I've gainsaid it. The American left can be as rigid and destructive as any force in American life, says Moynihan, cited by Jacob Heilbrunn. Autotherapeutic fantasy, said Moynihan on Jimmy Carter's foreign policy, as cited in the American Prospect of July-August 1997. A party of the working class cannot be dominated by former members of the Harvard Crimson, says Moynihan in 1980. By 1979, I was persuaded that the Soviet Union was going to collapse. When an idea dies in Madrid, it takes 2 generations for word to reach Managua, said Moynihan in 1996. Boemel's disease. The cost of social programs inexorably rises because they are labor-intensive, says Moynihan. He has used the Senate for every intellectual purpose except legislative. On Moynihan. He is first and foremost a critic, an oppositionist who revels in puncturing received truths. He has, in his Senate career, often defined himself in opposition to the incumbent president, tacking left or right as necessary against the prevailing winds, consistent in his consistency. Well, anyway, moving right along then. Yes, like I said, political news is rather thin on the ground. Isaiah Berlin distinguished negative liberty, the ability to do what one wants without interference from others, from positive liberty, which is 1. Withdrawal into an inner realm of conscience and contemplation, leading to political quietism. On the other, an attempt to stamp one's will on the outer world, despite its heterogeneity, opening the way to totalitarianism. Each involve in obedience to a self-imposed law, and each is potentially dangerous. Those who propound final truths clear a truth for final solutions. Philosophy is dangerous, and it also is necessary, our surest weapon in the endless struggle against enslavement. In the place of Kant, Fichte, Hegel, the Anglo-American world could draw on its own heritage, Locke, Hume, Mill. The metaphor that Isaiah Berlin prefers is shifting weight. Most of us subscribe to ideas and values that we inherited from the 2 main sources of modernity, the Enlightenment and Romanticism. They contradict each other on nearly every count, but we muddle through. The majority of the civilized members of Western societies continue in attitudes that cause more logical than moral discomfort. We shift uneasily, says Isaiah Berlin. And there's a lot more about Isaiah Berlin if you want to read it for yourself, that is, instead of having it read to you like your children. Then you might want to check out the New York Review of Books from June 26th. Still available in your local library. Below the regular phenomena of public life, which provides grist for the mills of the social scientists, there exists a lower level of reality, which is apprehended best by novelists, historians, and statesmen. These unlikely allies have one thing in common, an appreciation of the particular, the concrete, and the ineffable. At their best, they work with a sense of tact about unprecedented situations. They know how to capture the character of an event and to feel the texture of a culture. By a kind of intuition which cannot be defined, they get at the bedrock of experience, which cannot be reduced to laws. They work aesthetically with the je ne sais quoi of life. It is a kind of knowledge at the level of half-articulated habits, unexamined assumptions and ways of thought, semi-instinctive reactions, models of life so deeply embedded so as not to be felt consciously at all. Nice-sounding conservatives prosper and nasty-sounding ones do not, says Alan Ryan. The left can survive only by wearing conservative clothing. The right can be undone by the accusation of extremism as easy as the left. Or, as Christine Todd Whitman said to New Jersey Governor Tom Keene, for a position in your cabinet, I'll do garbage. For the next couple of years, she did everything right. Wrote a column in the local paper, had a radio show on the anti-Florio WKXW-FM, and went to endless meetings of the Republican loyalists who would have to get out to vote. The small, the small C conservative politics of the new Labour Party of Britain and the politics which President Clinton and Christy Todd Whitman have proposed have prospered. I'm hoping to be able to shed a little light on this subject before too long, but we might be as the person sitting in darkness for a while. I just can't seem to get this camera to work properly. You know what I'm saying? I think what I'm going to do is aim it at a powerful light source. If in fact I can get that light source to work, and see what happens. We might have some video, we might not. It all depends. I was sort of hoping against hope that this video would last a little longer than it actually did. But no matter. You weren't in darkness for very long. The small C conservative politics of the new Labour Party in Britain and the politics which President Clinton and Ms. Whitman have prospered. It accepts economic inequality without any visible qualms and proposes education as the state's chief contribution to social improvement. But unexciting and unambitious as it is not intolerant, not mendacious, not irrational. Gratitude seems in order. The last thing we need for the year 2000 is millenarian politics. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this presentation. I mean, it's coming right down to the wire, isn't it? Anyway, Bill Clinton calls for a soft money ban. You know, when he makes all these loud protestations about the evils of soft money, I mean, how serious is he, really? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to conclude with this following aphorism. Strom Thurmond has reached the age at which almost anything he does is seen as charming. And that's going to wrap it up for the political component. And then maybe I'll be able to get back to it a little later. But now we're going to do the grammar lesson that I've been promising to you for so long. And that should, in fact, suffice to fill out